One of the things I am most proud of is that my journey with my kids has been completely different to my upbringing. And that's been one of my goals. I did not have a very good upbringing at all. I had all types of abuse consistently when I was young. Okay, I choose not to associate with my family because I was determined to make sure that my kids were brought up in a better environment than what I was. And regardless of all of the success that I've had, that would be my biggest success, because if all I do in this time I'm here on this planet is change and break that chain, I've absolutely won.
Hi, Maini. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Welcome to Peak Performance Perspective, where we help entrepreneurs master health, wealth, and relationships. Now, as an entrepreneur, an author, and a digital marketing strategist, what does peak performance mean to you?
Performance, obviously, in the name, it says it itself. It's about being at your peak, it's being at your best. But for me, it's all about getting out there and really striving for what it is that you personally want to do with your life, and what your goals and your dreams are, and making sure that you're consistently running at that top speed, or not always the speed, but making sure that the activities that you do, the way you focus your time and your energy, is not only first in the most productive areas that you can, but also making sure that everything you need to have, whether it be in your mindset, whether it be in your abilities, your skills, that they are at that level where you can actually produce that absolute peak performance. I think that's probably what it means to me. It's being at your best. And you don't need to be there all the time, but majority of the time. And I guess being able to pick yourself up as well. So if you are down, being able to turn that around quickly and get back to that level where you can just go bang and knock it out of the ballpark.
Yeah. You started defining peak performance with knowing what to do first and then doing it really well. So many of us, we pick our college major when we're 18 years old, right? And we get stuck in a degree, or some of us get stuck in a career, or even start businesses sometimes. And after a while, we're like, this is not what we want to do. So how do we go about finding that?
I think it's actually a global problem that you're talking about there, because I've got children in high school still. My daughter's just turned 15, and she's under a lot of pressure already at 15 to decide what she wants to do for the rest of her life. There's opportunities for her to go to university or college early through a Head Start program, but she's got to have some kind of clue on what she wants to do. Okay. And I think this is really important. And I think that there's so much pressure on everybody to make these massive decisions at such a young age. And you're absolutely right. There's many people out there that go into university or into careers that they feel at the time might suit them, but they're not. I'm wondering if you actually have to. At the end of the day, I believe that life is a journey. I believe that we are all on this pathway to where we're wanting to go. And I think it's okay to morph and to change as you go along. So in answer to your question, do we actually need to know exactly where we're going?
That sounds really scary. How did you find out you wanted to be a digital marketing strategist? What was your journey like?
I had no clue. This is the thing. Look, when I finished high school, okay, I'm honest, I did terribly. I actually went and got myself a job when I was 15, and I worked the summer. And that kind of ruined me for education because I'd earned money. And so when I left year 12, I had a path, but I didn't do well enough on the tests to get into university. So that path was taken for me. And I ended up getting a very cushy government job that I could have stayed in till I was 65. I still had a path, but that was not the path I thought I would go down. Originally, I was going to be a music teacher, and then I was going to be a legal secretary, and then I was going to be something else, and I was going to be something else. So for me, I went on a journey, and I had no clue what was coming around the next corner, but I still did it. I still pushed. Was it scary sometimes? Absolutely. That's life, isn't it?
My story is a little similar to yours. I've lived so many lives as an engineer, then as a sales guy, and a marketing guy, and a consultant. And when we talk about these things and people are listening to it, it's quite a romanticized journey, right? We're doing all these things, but in reality, sometimes people look at us and think that our way of living is just because we're not sure about what we want to do. How did you deal with thoughts like that or comments like that from maybe people who are around you? And what's the lesson there?
I think Obviously, over the years, I've developed my mindset incredibly. So my initial response to that is the mind of Maini, who's in her 50s. And I don't give two hoots what anybody else thinks, quite frankly. Younger Maini suffered greatly from lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth because of her upbringing. And many of those comments would have floored me and even made me change my direction or my behaviors in the past. And I think people can be very influenced by the people around them, especially family, especially friends, stuff like that, because they don't want to be seen in a negative light. They don't want to be seen as not being in their peak performance, but they often get guided and even misguided by other people. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I guess that's how I deal with it now. And back then I didn't do so well at that. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay because we're all learning and we're all growing.
But if somebody's listening to this now and was at the age of young Maini when you were struggling with it, they are experimenting, they're trying different businesses, and they're seeing what's good and what's not, but they're feeling the pressure of friends or family. What advice would you give them?
So again, we're going to go to now Maini compared to the old Maini. Look, at the end of the day, it's your life, it's your journey, okay? It's your pathway. The people around you who may be being negative, may be giving you information that's not helpful, they are technically trying to help you. They're trying to protect you. They're trying to keep you safe. That doesn't automatically mean that what they are saying to you is correct, right, or the best information for you. So it's really important that you put on your big girl pants and you go out there and you just continually make the decisions for you without taking on their advice, which it could be misguided. Get your mindset sorted. Number one, that's seriously what has absolutely transformed my life. Okay, get your mindset. And I know everyone talks about mindset, but seriously, just go do it because it makes such a difference. It really does. So just do your best to ignore the happy people or the people that, you know, they're trying to help you, but just try to put that aside and just march your own pathway.
There are so many lessons when we have the opportunity to just start one business. You have started 18 businesses, take them to a lot of successful places. When you look at your journey of starting all these businesses, taking them to a successful place, then maybe doing an exit or doing whatever you needed to do with this at that point, what are some of the common denominators that you see is across all the businesses meant success? And then what was the common denominator when it came to maybe failure or not achieving what you wanted to achieve?
I would say early on, it was definitely my lack of confidence and my lack of self-belief and self-worth. And I know I keep coming back to this, but it seriously is the most important thing that you can actually conquer in life. I did some really silly things way back. There's some businesses that I let go of over silly comments. I know you and I've discussed that previously. Just a random comment from someone, and I actually went and sold a business for a third of its value because I was worried I was going to be seen as a fraud. She was actually complimenting me.
Yeah.
And as crazy as it sounds, it's because I didn't believe in myself. I didn't know my own worth. I didn't know my own ability. Needed to exit fast in case I got caught out. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So my journey has been like bits of confidence. Obviously, I could go out and I could cold call on businesses when I had my first commercial cleaning franchise to build that up. Spots of confidence, spots of self-worth issues and everything. It's been a complete journey. I'm not sure there's any one clear path or one clear depth of how I was successful. I just had a drive. I just had it inside me. I knew that this is what made me get up in the morning and made me keep going, you know? So that's what pushed me.
Yeah.
For the failures, I didn't mean to fail. I really didn't. And I still put exactly the same amount of effort in it, but there were lessons along the way. There was one I lost 10 grand on overnight. And it came down to just one silly little mistake, one tiny little thing I didn't do right, but I learned. So again, I don't think there's any clear pattern there. It's just your experiences as you go along, I think.
This resilience that you built over the
Mm-hmm.
years, going from not so confident Manny to this version of you that's
Mm-hmm.
ironclad and iron fisted. Did you intentionally go about becoming this version of you, or was it just a result of necessity?
I think it was probably a bit of both. I think I went through a really hard time in my 20s. Like when I was 24, my father died suddenly, and within 3 or 4 months, my family threw me out. through their own grief. Do you know what I mean? So here I was 24 years old and my entire world had flipped upside down and I had nothing left. Do you know what I mean? I had no friends. Friends don't stick around. When you're down, friends don't hang around. Family was gone. My dad was gone. An ex-husband decided to leave. That was an awesome time for him to leave as well. So I was completely alone. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I think it really comes down to your circumstances. Was I on a path? Not always consciously. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't always consciously. I think it was when you are lost, you start looking for direction, which I think is quite normal. Whether it's the right path you choose or not, who knows? My path was I decided to move to New Zealand. I decided just to pack everything up and just move to New Zealand, not knowing a living soul, thinking that I was going to get to have a whole new start. But the problem is I took me with me. And that was one of the things that I realized. But if I hadn't gone on that journey, I would never have met my husband that I've been with for 25 years. I'd never had my two gorgeous kids. I would never have had the opportunity to build the 18 businesses because I would have probably just stayed in that government job and never gone anywhere. So did I find a path for my mindset? No. Was I looking for answers? Absolutely. And did I come across Tony Robbins? Yes. Did I do anything with that for 14 years? No. So it was just as I went. And I do believe that there's something guiding us. I don't know what it is personally. There's many different ideas, but I do believe there is something that guides us. I feel I've been blessed to be guided in that direction and being able to learn the lessons I needed to take it on, really.
I really love that you're sharing this because when people listen to these podcasts and many other podcasts, when it comes to the guest, or sometimes we appear like Superman and Superwoman, right? And I remember being in a place in life, listening to other podcasts, thinking I would never be that. But the vulnerability that you're bringing and sharing and admitting that there was a time when you didn't have confidence and didn't find much success, to going where you are now, this immense amount of success, it gives people hope. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking that there's something wrong with me because I'm struggling right now, mine is living proof. And so are all we, that it's not easy. It's a journey that we find out. I love that. Right now, in your capacity, in your business now, you bring tremendous amount of visibility to businesses.
Mm-hmm.
My question to you is, why do so many businesses underestimate the power of visibility and consistency?
I think there's a few reasons why businesses do this. First of all, let's talk about visibility, okay? Depending on the size of the business, the type of business, where they need to be, a lot of people are afraid to really put themselves out there. And this comes down to lack of confidence, lack of ability, lack of self-belief, lack of belief in what they can do. And I think, gosh, you remember 10 years ago, there were so many people that say, I couldn't do a Facebook Live. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and they were terrified of being put on the spot and being live and terrified of making mistakes. And I think this is a lot of it when it comes to visibility. There's also that whole thing about what if I get recognized when I'm down the street with my kids and stuff like that. So they see these celebrities, and that's obviously the other end of the scale. But they see these celebrities that are harassed by the paparazzi, and so they worry that it's going to impact their life if they put themselves out there. So I think that's one of the reasons. The other reason is that they do believe that their work will speak for itself. Do you know what I mean? That they feel that they'll help George and George will talk to three of his friends and they'll all come along and then they'll like what they've got. Yeah. And so I think that there can be a little bit of complacency come into it as well, where people believe that they don't need to put themselves out there. They don't need to be seen consistently. They don't need to be heard by their audience because word of mouth will work, or someone will refer, or something along those lines. And when it comes to consistency, I honestly believe the biggest issue that businesses have is just they are juggling so many different balls when they're running a business that they can't keep up. I honestly think this is the number one reason why people don't stay consistent. But the thing is, there's so many tools out there these days that can help you stay consistent. And it takes such a small time to set it all up that really those excuses are now going by the wayside. They don't work anymore. Yes, I know you're busy. But that's why you hand this stuff off to someone that can focus on it and do it right so that you do show up consistently. You are seen, you are heard consistently. And that way your clients get to know you and you're not relying on that referral from John or that referral from Mary. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you mentioned there are so many tools out there that can help with consistency. Can you give me an example of one that you use with your clients?
Yeah, okay. So we have a system that we use currently that basically puts a breakfast, puts a business on the map. And the reason why I went to go for breakfast, because this machine pretty much can cook your breakfast, except it doesn't. But it does just about everything else. So our system can handle everything for a business. Let's take a wellness business just for an example here. Okay. So you're talking about a massage business and you're in the space with a client and you're in the zone and the client's relaxing and everything's going really well, and then your phone rings. Okay. And you're torn with, do you let the call go to an answering machine? Do you stop what you're doing to answer the phone? Do you break that? You can't really break it because you're with a client. So what do? You let the call go to your voicemail and you hope that person has left a message and that they want you to call them back. But often after session, you'll go and you'll pick the phone up and there's no voice message. So that's an opportunity lost. Okay, this is just one example. Right. So with our system, we can actually have a receptionist actually answer those calls for you and book in the clients into your diary, into your calendar. Okay. So all of that's taken care of. They can then follow up with SMS. They can follow up with emails to make sure that the client is fully prepared for the session, who shows up on time, is reminded about the session. We can follow up with email campaigns out to your previous clients, getting them to rebook, come back in. There's so many different things we can do to help businesses stay visible, stay front of mind with their clients and get themselves seen and heard, as well as take care of those moments when they want to concentrate on serving the client. Does that make sense? Yeah.
With so many things in our lives, we just feel like we're not ready yet. If I just got a little bit fitter, or if I was just a little bit richer, or if I just had a little bit more of a degree, then I would go and do these things, right? Similarly with businesses, when you're starting, you're just trying to survive. But slowly you start making money and you're being successful. But for some reason, we still feel we're not just there yet to hire professional help. At what point in a business's growth do you think they need to start considering not DIYing and hiring professional help?
Look, I think the sooner the better. Everybody's good in their own area, if that makes sense. And if you're not good in an area, it's not good to give it a go. Great that you want to give it a go, but it's not going to serve you in the way that you want it to. I can't climb trees, quite frankly. And if I had a business that required me to climb a tree, then I'd have to go and hire professional help immediately, because seriously, you do not want to see me try and climb a tree. It would not be pretty. Okay. And that's just one example. And obviously that's an extreme example, but that's just one example. Like, the thing is, you don't have to do this alone. Okay. You don't have to do this alone. AI is coming ahead in leaps and bounds. Honestly, it freaking blows my mind every day how fast this thing is going and how much it can do. Like, what it could do yesterday, it's doubled today, what it can do. Do you know what I mean? And that's just how fast it's going. So where we're at the moment is we've got a tidal wave coming. And the thing is, if you don't get on now and you don't ride that wave now, and I'm talking about surfing it, you're going to get wiped out by it. And that's honestly the two choices you now have: surf or to get wiped out. And it's all well and good to say, when I'm richer, I could do this, or when I could do this, but you can't do that. Okay, time for that is done. Like, time for, oh, when I achieve this, I'll be successful, or now. It's now. There's no more time for this dilly-dallying around and waiting. It's now or it's never, guys. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. We talked about business owners who have a lot of mindset issues and don't want to be visible in the first place, and we work with them. Then we talked about those who just don't know when to get professional help. There is also a category of business owners who want to be visible, but are just doing the wrong things. So, what is the most common mistake business owners make when they're trying to gain visibility on their own?
I think the number one thing that a lot of businesses do is they're not crystal clear. And when I say crystal clear, I mean it. They're not crystal clear on their ideal client persona. Okay. And I think this is probably still the biggest thing today that business owners do wrong. You've got to be absolutely crystal clear on every detail, as detailed as you can be. I'm not talking about saying to people, turn around and they say to me, I say, who's your client? And they'll say to me, oh, it's a woman in her 40s. And it's But that's where they stop because, oh, yeah, no, I just want to target women in their 40s. That's what I want to do. Where do these people hang out? What are they into? What are their interests? Where do they live? All of this kind of stuff. And I'm talking, we've got to go deeper, even deeper. We've got to work out exactly what their pain points are, what their problems are, exactly what solutions they're wanting. Because let's face it, and I mean, anything that you're solving in your life, you've already got an idea of what could fix it. It might not be right, but you already have an idea of how to, let's face it, like every problem has multiple solutions, right? They may not be the right solution, but there's still a solution. And I think this is what really matters. You've got to know the language that your ideal client speaks. You've got to understand the terminology. You've got to know all of this about your ideal client. Because at the end of the day, if you start doing campaigns and stuff for, let's say, a roofing company, for example, and you're showing some lady on the beach, you probably will attract a few roofers, but if you know what I mean, but not in the sense that you want to. So I think this is so very important. I think this is something the business is still really struggling with, is that knowing who their clients really are. And the offer, of course, that's the other thing.
So, what is your secret to quickly positioning these invisible businesses as industry authorities?
It really depends on where they happen to be at the time. Every business is unique. Every business is an individual. It depends on what they've done already, what's in place already. Basically, I can come in at any point and say, so we've got this and this is all good. We need this and this, okay? And it's simply about identifying the gaps in the business based on their goals, their plans, what they want to achieve, making sure that's realistic. It's not, I want to make $5 million in 2 months. It's telling that's not going to work. Okay, it's not going to work. There's a very slim chance it could, like if you won the lotto or something like that, but it's not going to work with what we've got here. So I think it's about working out where they're at, firstly. That's number one. And once we've got a clear picture of where they're at, who it is they serve, what problems they solve for those clients, it's then about working out where to position them for the most effect. So many different platforms out there, so many different ways you can market any business. Some need it here, some need it there, some need it everywhere. So that's probably the secret. It's just about knowing what they've got, knowing where they need to go, and just bringing those together.
You have amassed over 105 million views on Google. And
Yes.
I think people are going to throw things at me if I don't ask you, what strategies can somebody use to begin to get that type of result in terms of impact?
Okay, so this is something that I just worked on over time. It's like I've stumbled along. Do you know what I mean? Where this whole visibility thing started for me was I actually saw a video by Grant Cardone. Okay, and he was talking about how you could pretty much control what Google said about you in search. And this is where I started on this journey. It's about visibility is number one. It's about, let's say he was talking about, let's say you've got a bad news report about you, number one spot on Google. So anyone that searches your name, it's, yep, Mark did this. So that's going to stick. And so this video was about finding ways to push that down. That's what the video was about. But I got thinking and I thought to myself, imagine what it would be like if you could actually control what was positioned on Google about you. And so I started building systems in place. I started writing articles. And many people turn around and say articles don't cut it anymore, but they still do because they still position you as a thought leader. So I started writing articles based on the questions my ideal client was asking, and I would solve them. And some of my articles, when they were placed in the right places, was showing up on the first page of Google within 24 hours. And all of a sudden, there's me looking at the first page of Google and answering the question my ideal client wanted to know. And that gave me traction. The other thing was appearing on amazing podcasts like this one. Okay, they show up pretty soon on Google. They show up on YouTube, wherever else they happen to be. It gets you out there. Okay, and so it's just about consistently doing this kind of thing. The 105 million Google views that I have been built through visiting businesses, talking to owners, interviewing owners, taking photographs, doing all this kind of stuff, just to continually build who you are. Did I go to ideal clients? You bet I did. Do you know what I mean? Because doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
Doesn't it make sense to go and make a business owner feel special for 10 minutes in order to get their business? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't, to make them stand out. Do you know, doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
You bet I did that. So that is a strategy that I use with businesses now to help them get seen and heard quickly. Google my name. I own the first 4 pages of Google.
So for someone who wants to get started, you brought up a wonderful thing about writing articles from the perspective of solving your ideal client's pain points. Can you share some resources? What are some beginner places that they could go and write articles on to get some type of a view?
Okay, so there are sites that you can just write articles on. The thing is with websites, they all have a ranking, okay? And so some big websites, let's say Medium, can go and put anything on Medium, okay? There's no vetting or anything like that. You can just go and post on Medium. But the thing is, everyone posts on Medium these days, so you can just get lost in the crowd. How to get started? I think the most important thing in this area is to first of all make sure that you know your ideal client persona, that you know their pain points, you know what it is that you want to solve for them, and then start reaching out to relevant websites, relevant news sites that cover your topic and your industry, and start pitching ideas to them for stories. This would be the number one thing I would do. Okay. Same goes with podcasts, reaching out to amazing podcast hosts, similar to Mark here, and telling them your story and offering value. I think that's number one, offering value, offering to provide something their clients or their audience may not have or may not know. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's what makes the difference. Is it a fast process? No, it's not, because you've got to work out how to pitch. You've got to work out what to say. You've got to have something of value, something that offer, and be prepared to put the time in. Gosh, I think when I first started writing articles for magazines, I sent so many proposals out, and I was actually did a course on it as well to help me learn how to do it. I was very lucky with mine. Call it talent, call it whatever you want, but I wrote 50 articles and had them published first time on prominent sites without revision, because I knew what my market wanted, I knew what they wanted, and I delivered. And that's what it comes down to. That's all you really need to do. You just need to know what they want and give it to them, really.
For those who are listening to this and they want to know specifically about what type of marketing and visibility services you provide, can you tell us a little bit about how you go about helping businesses?
Sure. Okay, so having been in business for 27 years and having built 18 businesses from scratch, there is a lot I can do. Like, people might call me a jack of all trades, but when they throw that term around loosely, they often think, okay, so they're not, they know a lot of things, but they're not good at anything in particular. Having that experience over 27 years, everything that I do, I'm good at because I've had to be good at. Do you know what I mean? Anything from what, and again, I think it depends on where the business is at and what they need. Anything from digital marketing. So we're talking about ads, we're talking about social media, we're talking one of my powerhouses. Okay, because for B2B, it's the place. Oh, that's going to sound, for B2B, that's the place to be. Yeah, LinkedIn, huge. Google, obviously, because I know how to do that. These days, AI services, as I was talking about before, the voice receptionists, don't be fooled, because they are coming together so fast these days that you can't pick it. You can't pick whether it's human or not. And here's the thing with the voice receptionists, 24/7, they never have a sick day. They never want holiday leave. They don't need super. They're never going to not answer a call, and they're never going to get cranky or cross with your clients. This is the thing. It's all of that's gone. Do you know what I mean? And so there's AI voice, there's email marketing, there's follow-ups with SMS, all different kinds of things, all automated. I have a huge range of things I can do. I often say to people, ask me what I can't do.
You brought up LinkedIn, and for our audience, LinkedIn is a big place to be, right?
Yeah.
But these days, especially with the advent of AI automation software, people are getting inundated with DMs, right? When you are working with a client, what are some beginning strategies that you utilize to make them set themselves apart in terms of LinkedIn content or even outreach?
Okay. All right. So with LinkedIn, obviously there's certain things that we need to do to get you seen. All right. Because you're right. There's a lot of people on there. There's a lot of DMs going on. I still do DMs, but it's how you do the DMs that make the difference. Okay. And that's what I'll talk about shortly. It's how you do it. All right. But let's face it, if you've got a profile that doesn't have a banner that jumps out at people, that doesn't stand out, if you don't have your headline and your about section all looking really smashing, if you haven't done your featured section, if you haven't done your experience properly, then you've got 2.5 seconds to impress somebody. And quite frankly, that's not going to do it. Okay. All right. So that's the very first thing you need to do. You've got to get your profile looking absolutely amazing. It's all about positioning yourself as the only choice. And in this busy world, that's exactly what you do. You have to position yourself as the best choice, the only choice, whatever you want to call it, where people are going to go, I've got to work with that person. I've got to work with that person. Number one would be that. Secondly, I would look at doing some socials so that you can fill your feed with relevant solutions to problems. Okay, that's the second thing. But what I would really do for LinkedIn, and it also depends on how many followers you have on LinkedIn, that's something you want to try and build up as well. I'd look at doing a LinkedIn newsletter. And the reason why I say this is because the way LinkedIn positions newsletters gets you a higher reach than just posting. Okay. And it's consistent. So with newsletters, every time that you do a new edition, it goes out to all of your subscribers and they are notified not only through LinkedIn, but also through email. Okay. So the marketing in those is done for you. And as long as you're positioning yourself in that newsletter as the thought leader, you're going to get clients from it. You're going to get clients. So LinkedIn, they would be the first two things I would do. And then I would start DM campaigns, but making sure that you go in adding value, because you're right. People get 15, I'm from such and I can do this for you. Do you know what I mean? And it's like people are done with that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. But if you show up, if your profile looks great, you've got socials on there, you've got a thriving newsletter, they start standing up. Just like the girl I've got an appointment with today that turned around and she said, I want to see what you can do for my business. That just came straight out of LinkedIn.
So how do you go about sending a DM so that it's providing value as opposed to how most people do it?
All right, let's face it again. Like they're used to getting 15 messages saying, boy, I'm from such and such, and have I got a deal for you? Okay. Most people aren't even reading the DMs anymore. So you've got probably less than a second to actually grab their attention. Okay. So how do you do it? You add value from the first sentence. You don't say, hi, Mark, I saw that you were into cats and I thought it'd be great if we connected. Do you know what I mean? That's not adding value. Okay. You need to say something along the lines of clients I've worked with have this problem. Here's a valuable resource. Bang, instant, just no mucking around. Just get something out to them. Like maybe they'll read it, maybe they won't. Maybe it's the right timing, maybe it's not. Maybe it's the ideal timing. Maybe they've been literally asking just before they saw your DM, solve this problem. And bang, if you're that person, okay? If you've got things on your profile, they'll then probably go and have a look at your profile. They'll see more of, oh, this person gets me, this person understands me, this person looks like they can solve my problem. They'll watch for a while. They won't reach out immediately. They'll be watching. But the more they see, the more touch points you have out there, the more they're going to want to work with you. So that's the way with DMs. Does it always work? Absolutely not. As I said earlier, do people always read them? Hell no. But that is the only way to make it work.
So many clients, a family with kids, so many needs that are pulling you away in so many directions. How do you maintain clarity and focus to be able to not only just help your business, but also all these other businesses?
That's a really interesting question that you put to me. And I got hit up by my family back in November last year because I was putting just a few too many hours into what I was doing. And it wasn't that they didn't feel like I was bringing in enough income or anything like that. It was more they were just worried about how I was going. And, I actually had to sit down and actually put in some strong boundaries with the work that I do. I'd get up at 5:30, 6 a.m. in the morning, and I'd be on the computer. And I wouldn't get off the computer until I actually had to cook dinner at 6 o'clock at night. Do you know what I mean? Because it's my passion. This is what I love doing. So I'd be there, but now it's like I'm still getting up at the same time, but now it's I'm out for a walk in the morning and then I'm home and I'm having breakfast with my family and I'm taking that time. And okay, this morning was a little tricky because I jumped on half an hour early because we were having this, but it's 8 o'clock and then the computer goes on. And the fact that I've already checked my emails, don't tell them. But it's like now the computer goes on. I've got it scheduled in my diary at 12 o'clock for an alarm to go off so that I get up and I go and have an hour's lunch break. And my daughter and I are committed to half-hour walks at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I spend half an hour with her watching her favourite TV show. So I've had to put those boundaries in place. Do you know what I mean? And am I getting any less done? Probably not, because I know that I have a schedule and I know that I've got to get a certain amount of work done in a shorter amount of time. And so I do. I think that's the secret. You've just got to, there's no such thing as work-life balance. That's not true. But you've got to have some balance. Do you know what I mean? There's got to be some balance.
Yeah. After building multiple businesses, how do you go about measuring your own success? And also, how do you define fulfillment at this stage of your career?
So I think, again, success is a broad term. I think success is whatever it happens to be for other people, anyone. Do you know what? You personally, I really think that. For me, it's changed over the years. I think that's the same for everyone. In my 20s, it was like I was going to be a millionaire because that's all you needed to be back then. Okay, they've raised the bar on me now to the point where it's unreachable. And I don't want to reach it. I think that's the most important point. The bar has been raised. It's like now the standard is a billionaire. But I don't want to reach it these days. Do you know what I mean? Because that's not defining what success is to me these days. To me, success is more than just reaching the $1 billion. Because how many people do we know who've made it financially, but then they're absolutely miserable in their life? Do you know what I mean? How many people do we know that achieve what they feel is the goal they wanted and it turns out not to be, similar to what we were saying very early on about the career choices? Do you know what I mean? So I think success is what you want it to be. One of the things I am most proud of is that my journey with my kids has been completely different to my upbringing. And that's been one of my goals. I did not have a very good upbringing at all. I had all types of abuse consistently when I was young. And I'm estranged from my family out of choice. Okay, I choose not to associate with my family because I was determined to make sure that my kids were brought up in a better environment than what I was. And regardless of all of the success that I've had, that would be my biggest success, because if all I do in this time I'm here on this planet is change and break that chain, I've absolutely won. That would be my definition of success these days. All the money and everything, it comes and it goes. Do you know what I mean? But that, and going forward, having broken that chain, when I see family members whose offspring are following their path. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what matters to me more than anything, I think.
Maini, your journey is just so incredible, coming from where you came from, especially sharing with us about the upbringing you had, and then the successes and the ups and the downs to launching so many successful businesses and now helping others. It's a story that needed to be heard. Tell our audience a little bit about where can they find you, how can they connect with you, tell us what's going on in your life.
All right. So obviously I can be found everywhere because that's what I'm about. I've got to show up everywhere. So you can find me on LinkedIn, obviously. Okay, LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Okay, not really platforms that I'm that happy about being on. I make sure I'm everywhere. I'm on YouTube. You can DM me, you can message me, you can send me an email. Like, all channels are open. Just Google me. You'll find me extremely quickly. So I don't hide. To be a visibility expert, I've got to be visible. Does that make sense? Yeah. So just reach out at any time. Happy to have a chat with anyone who would like more information, would like to know more about me, or maybe you just need a problem solved. I love solving problems.
I love it. Maini, thank you so much for being on the show. I hope to talk to you soon again.
All right. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.